Good morning and welcome to the Technology Access Center. Today I'd like to provide a brief tour of different devices that we have as well as a little bit about what we do. So if you would, please follow me. Our first stop today is going to be our toy library. All these toys have been adapted for Switch access. We do this for a couple of different reasons. We primarily adapt toys for Switch access for children who are learning to develop cause and effect skills. As you can tell, some of them like to go off on their own. We also do this because cause and effect is an early communication skill, and so for many children who don't have a voice, this is the first step in a long process of learning to communicate. So I'll give you a quick example. We're going to use Simba here.
Hi, I'm Simba. I can roar really loud. How about you?
Another important thing to note about all these toys that we have adapted is we also loan them out to parents of children with disabilities as well as therapists. We do this all for free. That way children can have a constant stream of toys that they can use, so as they lose interest in one we can pick up with another, and they have a wider variety here just so that we can also address different interests and needs. Another thing that we do that relates to toy adaptation is we also do free Switch assessments for children that are learning to interact with their environment. So there's many different kinds of switches. Really what we're looking for is a switch that the child can press regularly using muscle movement in essence. So we have some that are fairly flexible, like wobble and gooseneck switches here. We've got some jelly bean switches, so there's quite a few different kinds. Here's one of my personal favorites, a finger switch. Requires very little effort to actually press. So as you can see, there's quite a few different ones. An increase in popularity recently has been for some of the Bluetooth switches, so the Tecla Shield and things of that nature. That's the mount for it. So we can actually mount these to a wheelchair. But here we have our Switch interface, so you can actually control a computer, you can control a smartphone or a tablet using this device entirely by using one or two switches. So as children are learning to interact with their environment and are learning cause and effect skills, eventually through Switch access they can control their homes, computers. A lot of times we see this with ALS or for individuals who are quadriplegic as they're entering into the workforce. So this can provide quite a few different options for access. Our next stop is going to be our aids for daily living section. So basically what those are is anything that would assist an individual with performing a specific task that they might do daily. So a common one that we see is putting on socks and shoes. This is a flexible sock aid. They put their sock on the end and they can actually get their socks on that way. Or a modified shoehorn in essence. This is a shoehorn that you can put down in a shoe over the heel. It's on a string, so as they're trying to put it on, they can push their foot down and in, and when they're finished, they can pull up. I see this quite often with individuals who have C4 or C5 spinal cord injuries. Those are fairly common. Some others that we have fairly common are adapted utensils for eating. So this is actually a one-handed knife. An individual who can't do the sawing motion well like this with a standard knife can use some downward pressure and rock to cut whatever it is that they're looking to do. Another common thing is adapted grips. So these are just a few of many aids for daily living. So there's quite a few different ones. Here we've got an electric flour sifter. We've got quite a few. Some of the writing tools that we have here, an individual would put a pen or pencil in and then just slide it around to write. That works well for someone who doesn't have the fine motor skills but has good gross motor. So there's just quite a few different ones. Those just a general overview and idea of some of the things that are out there. Another common type of device that we use here is called OCR scanners. It stands for optical character recognition. Basically what these are devices that will take a picture of text, for example a book or a piece of mail, a handout, things of that nature, and it will analyze it to find text and then read it out loud. So this works really well for someone who is visually impaired or totally blind, or for someone who has a specific learning disability with reading as it relates to comprehension or fluency, as long as they have decent auditory comprehension. So if they understand what's being said, this tends to work fairly well. This is one of our simpler ones. All I have to do is place a document on it, let it take a picture. It'll do this on its own. So right now it's processing it for text and should start reading here shortly.
His sheet will familiarize you with the main features and basic operation of the Clear Reader Plus. To use the Clear Reader, place the unit directly in front of you, so that the speakers face Please place your document.
And then as we take a document off of that particular one, it will stop reading. Not all of them will do that, but this one was meant to be fairly simple in operations for individuals who are a little bit older or who aren't able to understand many of the complex features that the others have. There's also quite a few portable options. So you've got your iPal roll here. Those you can take with you. It usually fits pretty easily into a backpack. All of these have headphone jacks so that you can actually listen through headphones. So if you go to the public library, it's not going to be chattering away, disturbing others that are visiting. This is another portable one. This is the Optelec Clear Reader Plus. This is a pretty popular one for portability. You can collapse the camera. The voice quality is pretty high, and the battery life's also pretty decent. Because we're so connected to our worlds through smartphones and tablets and other smart devices, we actually have invested in quite a few different devices that we can loan out to clients. We install a lot of assistive technology applications onto them, as well as tinker with a lot of the accessibility features based on someone's needs. We also have recently been investing in some smart home equipment. So you can see here we've got a Nest camera, a carbon monoxide sensor, we've got a lock, a couple of smart lights and things of that nature. We've also got a Google Home and Alexa. Both of those have been increasingly popular for individuals who have physical disabilities but speech isn't affected, because through that they can control various things within their home, such as their thermostat or unlocking their front door, things of that nature. In addition to all of the other things that we do, we also work with low and mid-tech communication devices. We don't do a lot of high-tech devices, primarily because there's a prescription that's typically required by a speech-language pathologist as well as a doctor, which we are not. We don't have an SLP on staff, and we are not medical doctors. But the low and mid-tech options are the devices that fairly regularly your insurance won't always cover, or if they do, you're stuck with a device for about 5 years. As a child learns to communicate, they'll go from some fairly simple communication devices rather quickly up to some more versatile ones. So here we've got a lot of single level or a single communication option buttons. As a child does well with that, we start working into 2 and 3 options. And then ultimately, if they're doing really well with that, we'll start getting them onto a GoTalk or other communication devices that allow for more options, as well as different levels of communication layers. So what I mean by a level is with the GoTalk, for example, most of them have 5 levels. So this one would be 1 level. So here it's talking about Peppa the pig, various things relating to that. But say we didn't want to talk about Peppa all the time. There might be certain things that need to be communicated in class or at home. You can take that sheet out, put a different one in, and change the layer to an appropriate layer for it and have different communication options. So that's about as high-tech as we get outside of applications like Proloquo to Go or Proloquo for text. But those are applications and not dedicated devices, so insurance doesn't typically cover those. So we go through those for individuals that don't qualify for communication options through insurance. So in addition to all of the other things that we do, we also do work occasionally with different kinds of phones. So we have caption call phones. These are phones for individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing, who can speak well through the phone but cannot always understand others on the other end of the line. So this phone will connect to a transcription service, and they will actually get scripts from the phone call on the screen that you see here. So that works really well for someone that can speak but just can't hear well. It will store the scripts from phone calls so they can go back and review voicemail messages, they can review phone calls. Only complaint that I've had with these is that sometimes the transcription takes a minute because someone is transcribing it live. So for someone who may have some memory issues or low cognition, here we've got different icons with phone numbers. So this is basically just a simple caller ID feature, or not caller ID, but speed dialing, so you could have it listed for emergency services, friends, family, things of that nature, and you can label who they are with those images. It's also got large buttons for someone that may have low vision. CapTel, this particular one here, is very similar to the caption call phone, still does captioning. And then this is an updated version of the phone that I just showed, where it has pictures. You can actually put real pictures of individuals that they know. If they don't know how to dial the phone, they can press that number and call people that they know and communicate with regularly. We do work with quite a bit of computer access, especially for employment or access for school assessments and things of that nature. So we've got quite a few laptops, we've got tablets, we've got some 2-in-1s, some general hybrid options, and that's just because we don't know exactly what a client will need, and so we've got to have a variety to fit various needs. A lot of the 2-in-1s we can use for mounting, same with laptops to a wheelchair. We can also assess if it's something that they're going to be using portably. We want to be looking at portable options. If someone's going to be working predominantly at a desk or in a very specific location, we'll start looking more at desktops. Because we do travel for a lot of our assessments, we have only laptops, and then we'll just simulate them as a desktop whenever those assessments do come. We've also got quite a few different kinds of mice and keyboards. So we've got large font keyboards, we have high contrast keyboards, we've got different kinds of mice, such as joysticks. We've got some that function primarily as touchpads. We've got all kinds of trackball mice. We've got a controller pad here, ergonomic mice, more joysticks. A lot of the joystick ones you can actually plug directly into someone's wheelchair controls. So that also works well if they know how to use that and they're transporting themselves via wheelchair. Another common thing that we have here is a switch interface. This one's called Words Plus. This is what Stephen Hawking used up until his passing here recently. He used that primarily for communication as well as computer access. So what a switch interface does is will connect or allow you to connect up to several switches to a computer. Each switch tells the computer what to do. The switch interface, though, is what communicates what each switch press should be doing. We've also got quite a few head mice, so for someone who physically can't access a mouse but can turn and move their head, the Head Mouse Extremes and Head Mouse Nanos, which is its current iteration, works pretty well. We've also got a couple of different options for eye gaze. So if someone can't turn and move their head, they could also access a mouse by just looking in different directions, as long as they have good eye control. For individuals who have low vision, we have quite a few handheld magnification options. So magnification is a fairly common accommodation to enable someone to access text. I'll use the Ruby 7 here just as a general example. So as I go and turn it on, it'll go through at least a brief process of booting up. But if I slide it across the page, you can see that it's following roughly the text, at least what I'm trying to read. I can zoom in and out, as well as change contrast settings. Some individuals can't see well using normal colors. A common one that I see is black and yellow. Blue and yellow not so much. White on black's a very common one. And then this is also a high contrast black on white. So this one also happens to have a camera that I can take and turn and move. So I'll get into a little bit better color mode here so that you can see what it's doing. But I can actually take it, aim the camera, and you might even see me here in a moment. They come in different shapes, sizes, and forms. So that 7-inch one's a fairly large one. But just for an example to show you a highly portable one, the original Ruby here works pretty well. You can hold it like a magnifying glass. A lot of individuals use that. This works well whenever you're on the go. Whereas at home, usually the Ruby 7 works a little bit better because you can see larger amounts of text with it. Another common option for magnification is called a CCTV. If you work in the school systems, you'll pretty regularly see these for a lot of the students with low vision in their classroom. What these do is in essence the same thing that a lot of the handheld magnifiers do. However, the magnification quality is usually a lot better. You can get a larger screen. So for someone who can't see on a very small one, the larger screens enable them to see a little bit more. I always say that magnification and screen size has a correlation similar to if I could physically take and stretch a picture. Regardless of the size of the picture, if I could just take it and make it larger, that's in essence what we're doing with the screen. So magnification on a 7-inch screen compared to a 22-inch is much larger on a 22-inch. You can also see that a lot of these have adjustable cameras. Not all of them do, some don't. So you can take it, point it. These work well in a classroom setting because you can take it, point it at a school board, and get an idea roughly of what they are needing to see. There's also, depending on someone's vision, if they see a little bit better up close, there's also some that will have the monitor positioned fairly closely. Most of them will have adjustable monitors, so you can take it, raise it, lower it, turn it, things of that nature. Whereas some of the other ones that I showed previously, the screens aren't really adjustable, but the camera is. So there's just a little bit of a difference. Those typically work a little bit better for someone who sees a little further away. That's going to wrap up our tour for today. I do want to thank you for taking the time to watch. Hopefully you learned some things. The things that I showed aren't an all-inclusive list of what we do, but they do give you a general idea of what assistive technology is, different kinds that are available, and just some general options. If you have any further questions, please contact me and I'd be more than happy to share with you anything else that I know. So thank you and have a good day.